Even though Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time did very well at the box office, it received pretty poor reviews from the general public. But although the script may have been thin and predictable, the VFX were good enough on their own to make you watch the film to the end. Double Negative, Framestore, MPC, and Cinesite all provided VFX for this film, and although each company was tasked with their own specific shots, there was a certain amount of overlap. To create the Dagger rewind effect, DNeg elaborated on the event capture process they had developed for the Freefall sequence in the Quantum of Solace. Because the rewind effect had to fit seamlessly into the normal forward action of the scene, they decided to film it directly after, so the actors still had their positions and moves fresh in their minds. DNeg set up 9 locked cameras and precisely calibrated their positions and lens data to record the live scene. DNeg then rotoed the actor's performance from the footage from each camera, then each performance could be projected from the camera's exact position in 3D space. This effectively gave them the actor's performance from 9 different angles, a 3D performance from 9 2D shots. This enabled them to make new camera moves, change lighting, slip timing of the actors, and pretty much anything else they wanted to do, all whilst maintaining original moving photographic textures and the correct lighting. For the sandglass scene, DNeg had to create a digital environment that looked 100% real, and a light-emitting crystal tower filled with swirling sand that would portray images from the past. DNeg had to do a lot of research for the 300-foot sand-filled crystal because a 300-foot sand-filled crystal doesn't really exist. So what does it look like? The VFX team visited a quarry in the UK and took lots of photos. They then created a 3D rock surface and began projecting textures onto it. To get reference material, they bought crystals from a New Age store and shone different lights and lasers through them, studying the way the light refracted within them and the flaws and cracks they had. Framestore had to do a vast amount of research before deciding on the type of snake they were going to create. And yes, all the vipers in the film are CG. They made the scales hard and defined. This was to give the snakes a more armored and aggressive feel. The scales closest to the head were actually hand molded in ZBrush and Mudbox, whilst the scales further down were created using a custom Maya plugin that was similar to Framestore's feather system. This plugin allowed animators to create geometry scales onto their simpler tube animation rig and alter the scale distribution, the inclination, and the look of the scales. Cinesite had to create establishing shots and extensions for the cities of Nazaf and Azrat. For reference material, they used topographical LiDAR scans of the environments in Morocco, photographic research on Arabic art, tiles and architecture, and they even visited an ancient Persia expedition at the Tate Gallery. For lighting reference, they took HDR photography on set in Morocco. The Avrat chase scene was initially filmed in Morocco and then recreated at Pinewood, with blue screen backgrounds which were later replaced with the sky domes they took in Morocco and digital matte paintings. The assassin scene was co-choreographed by Cinesite. The stunt actors on set only had the handles of their weapons in their hands. The VFX team had to then match their CG whips, claws or blades to the action, adding dust hits, splashes and sparks to help sell the shot. And the mysterious cloud and sand trails that surrounded the assassins were done in Houdini. For the flashback shots with Nizam, Cinesite had to de-age Ben Kingsley, and they did this in rather a clever way. They cast 2 young doubles who stood in straight after the take with the original actors, so the lighting conditions were exactly the same. MPC was given the mammoth task of building a complete city from scratch. For the size reference, they used LiDAR scans from the sets at Pinewood and Morocco. And for artistic reference, they used the production designer's layout design, references their digital photographer took of textures, objects, structures, and buildings during a 3-week trip to Rajasthan in India, digital photography from Morocco, and reference material from a book called The Orientalists. With this basis, artists began to build a library of over 30 different houses, a large section of the market stalls and props, different cloth roofs and fabrics, trees and gardens, squares and streets. While this was happening, MPC's Rend-D department was using their proprietary crowd system, Alice, as a basis for a new building layout tool called Town Planner. This tool allowed different parts of the city to be laid out quickly and naturally. Town Planner also allowed them to organize the city according to building type, so poorer buildings would be placed on the outskirts and richer buildings closer to the center. This type of control and automation was indispensable for dealing with the city's builds that ended up needing 20,000 individual buildings and over 180,000 props. Please give us a like if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget the links to the music used in this video in the video description, and be sure to let us know, as always, in the comments which movie VFX you'd like to see behind next.